Here we go. Okay, we are live. Right, everybody, if you're tuning in on a replay, just providing a moment for everyone to start joining. I just sent out the invite. I tried to schedule it through YouTube today. That way I could put the link in, hey Dan, into Twitter early so people would know when it's scheduled, and it got a little bit mixed up. I'm not sure what time zone YouTube thinks I'm in. I think I'm somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, so that didn't work out perfectly, but yeah, we've just got the link up and we're waiting for everybody to join. Jiggy Wiggy, Dan Sage. I don't know who was first in. I only know based on who comments first, right? So, yeah, so I'll work on that in the future. You know, my mind is usually on the stock side of things and on, hey, Abdullahi, focusing on options and stocks. It's funny because I say this quite a bit. I bet you the con artists and the fake gurus are amazing when it comes to using YouTube, because that's what their focus is, right? Social media, emojis, trying to play that game, scheduling things on YouTube, getting on Twitch, right? Whereas my focus is on the data. YouTube, adding weird little things near. Hello from Houston. Hey Harvey, I'm in Houston as well. First from Brooklyn. Hey Alexander. This is cool. So we're going to start breaking it down by who's in first based on their geographical location. I like that. Let's see. In your opinion, do you think the order flow in unusual oils affects the stock within the hour, more likely the day? Depends, Nick Manning. Obviously, if we're seeing somebody make moves today, like right now, which is 2:34 Eastern Standard Time, then yeah, it has to be today, right? Because otherwise it expires. But then it otherwise depends. And part of what I look at is expiry, right? The sooner the expiration is, the more conviction someone is showing to a move occurring in the near term. But today is the most extreme example. Geez, this is an overrepresentation of Houston in the chat. It's kind of wild. Minneapolis, Minnesota. We've got a few. I had a few messages from people in Minneapolis. There we go. Now we got some diversity. Netherlands, Jersey, LA in the house. Hello from London. Hello, Ben. What time is it in London? It's not too late. What is it? Like almost 1 a.m. Toronto, Canada. Yeah. I have people in Pickering. I've been to Toronto more times than I can count. Yeah, definitely know Toronto. Hello from Alabama, Wayne, Germany, Fort Worth. There we go. Yeah. Near Houston on the Texas coast. Close enough. Yeah. Moine Simone. Aloha. Okay. I know where you're in from. Atlanta's in the house. Ohio. Geez, New Brunswick. Believe it or not, Spatula, I have been to New Brunswick. I've been to St. John. Nashville, I was just in Nashville. Boston, I've been to Boston before. Zenwei, I want to go to Singapore. I've never been. This is kind of cool. The opening to today's session. We'll just give like another minute or two. And guys, feel free to drop your questions in here. Is we're getting a feel for where everybody's from. That's so cool. South Carolina, awesome. We'll be going to, I think, North Carolina later this year, but maybe we'll drive through South Carolina. Yeah, very cool. Nova Scotia, Tom Decker. I have also been all over Nova Scotia. Halifax, Dartmouth, or what everybody calls the dark side. I've been there, yeah. Spent a good while there. Upper Water Street, Lower Water Street, as I recall. Just for business reasons, though. Weekend Playa, Ottawa, Ontario. Okay. It's actually my hometown, so I know Ottawa, Ontario very well. Doesn't feel like home. I mean, I've been gone for so many years, but yeah, I know Ottawa well. I have a lot of friends in Ottawa. Dallas, awesome. San Antonio, Texas crew. Chicago, very cool. Lots of family in Chicago. Charlotte, love it. Come to Minneapolis. I may. I travel a lot for business reasons and have traveled. I used to travel far more than I do now, and it has nothing to do with current conditions or anything like that. Just change in business. But I used to travel quite a bit. Yeah. Ben Quatang. Could you discuss your trailing stop once you're in profit? Yeah, Buffalo, New York. I used to head out by there. So let me answer Ben's question. But yeah, keep dropping where you guys are from. I love it. Fredericton, awesome. Been there. So when it comes to Geez, Hillcrest High School, weekend player. You probably know some people in common. When it comes to exiting when you're in profit, so I've made a video on this before, and Ben Quatang, I recommend looking at my video on how to maximize profits. You have two viable options, in my opinion. You can set a trailing stop, and that can either be an automated trailing stop or a mental trailing stop if you have the discipline to adhere to your mental trailing stop. Any stop that you set mentally requires a lot of discipline, and it sounds easy, but you get shaken when you're in a live trade at times, both to the upside and downside. So you could set it as a percentage of your gains. So let's say you're at plus 25%. You could say, look, I'm willing to risk another 10, but there's only if you project upside that's adequate, right? Don't be thinking, oh, I'm at 25, I might go to 30, so I'll risk 10 of what I've made so far. No, just take your profits. The other thing you could do is if you have liquidity concerns in specific, you can take profits off the table by removing some size if you have size. So let's say you have 40 contracts. You could sell 10, you could sell 20, you could sell 30, 40. That's the general idea, Ben. But please see my video that's dedicated to this. That is the how to maximize your profits video. And let me just go through it. Athens, awesome. Calgary, Snoop, Jaggy Jag, Snoopy. I love it. Yeah, I have. I know some good people in Calgary. I've only been once. Did anyone enter Lucid? Yes, I think Matt. I think people did re-enter Lucid. How did you determine the entry point, Harvey? We're going to get on entry points and triggers. Not everybody can be born in heaven. Everybody will move to Texas eventually. Seems to be the case, right? Just remember what makes Texas awesome. You know, keep it the way it is. Don't change it too much. Next week. When would you consider taking the next week's options instead of this week's options? Andrew Burkhalter, I hope I said your last name properly. It's a good question. I usually, if I'm convicted to a move this week, then I want this week because it gives me the most exposure to the upside, which is what I'm looking for. If I'm swinging, of course, I'm not going to take a 0 DTE on a swing. And sometimes when I get in the power hour, or what everybody calls power hour, from the last hour of the trading day, I won't say 3 to 4 or 2 to 3 because it depends on your time zone, but the last hour of the trading day, I may opt to go into the next week if I'm not really as confident that the move will happen as quickly as I want it to. And that's just because I may be concerned that I'm not going to get enough time in the trade, right? Like I'm not going to get caught with my options burning on me, right? But what I'm concerned with is that because of the time erosion due to Theta, that I may just have to exit my trade in that last hour because of time erosion alone and not because of the move. So I don't want to have to do that and then re-enter. It's just in terms of the costs. In some cases, I may switch over to next week, but I don't like doing that unless I really feel strongly, because then I'm paying a premium for all the way out to next Friday. So let me see here. Perhaps an echo problem. Unlistenable, unfortunately. Let's see. Are you guys hearing is the audio coming through okay? I know there's going to be a few second delay, but just let me know if it sounds okay. Hey, area. Would you teach me make a sample of how to do your trades, how the alerts work? Fidencio Rios, yeah, I could show you. I could show you really quickly how alerts work. Is the stream being recorded? I think so. Snoop Jaggy Jag, I think it is. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Brody Yates, what changes your levels in the AM? How about this? We'll make that the first thing we talk about here. Is because I want to get into that with visuals here. Outer is using a trigger with brackets a good practice? Yeah, it is. Again, it depends on where you're at. It really depends on where you're at in your trading. If you feel strongly and you have the discipline to enter and exit, then I do like being able to input manually. I input all my trades manually. The only time that you'll hear me automate something typically means I'm multitasking and I'm in profit anyhow. So I might just set a trailing stop and that's fine. But otherwise, entries are always managed manually. Just to reiterate, I've been asked multiple times whether it makes sense to set up automatic entries based on the price of the underlying. So for example, if you were trading Coinbase and it broke 233, you could have something set up so that you automatically enter and purchase options contracts? No, absolutely no. This is a terrible practice, because while the options contracts and underlying are tightly correlated, the options contracts the price can move wildly based on what's happening with the underlying, and you don't want to get caught. The spreads can be really wide. It could be an option contract that is no longer viable due to what's happening with price action, so you need to be able to see it. Audio sounds good. Oh, thank you, everyone. Okay. Let's see here. I think I answered a question down there, so let's get into this. So Brody Yates. Okay. So how do you set what changes your levels in the AM? PM lucid levels were perfect, but I was still waiting on your AM levels to get in. So I don't always change my levels in the morning, or my trigger points. I think levels is like the buzzword that people are trying to market and make money off of, but whatever you want to call it. Price level, trigger point, my entries. I will often make adjustments based on what I see in the AM price action, but sometimes I won't. And I know that can be confusing, because one of the things that people are asking is about trigger points. So let's talk about triggers and entries right now, just because I want to tackle that subject. So before I kind of get into some examples here, I want to pull this up and go to this post. Just thought I was doing that. Here we go. How I set my triggers and trades, I always combine multiple data points, and that's why I wanted to refer back to this. A good example as well as Fargo. Price was a bit oversold in my opinion, but we needed a catalyst to move. I saw a strong bullish flow on unusual whales in the price action, and then I waited on the Barclays analyst, which gave a major upgrade. So what happens was I jumped up the entry point, right? I felt like that was a catalyst that was going to push the price higher, so I knew I had to be a little bit more aggressive. So I get that question a lot, and I know it's so tempting. You guys heard my rant yesterday, I'm sure you did, about being cautious with these furs pumping out these absolute... I'm trying to use good language here because I don't want our YouTube stream to get flagged. These absolute clowns and jokers, and trust me, I'd use much worse words, not profanity. I try not to swear. These losers, these con artists with their the 25 to 20% ATR, insanity, right? And those are the kind of people who will push something like that's how they set their triggers, which is the dumbest thing in the world. It's basically what it's telling you is like, hey, take this and just add 10% and take this range and minus 10% and your trigger's there and there. It's the stupidest thing, but they expose themselves. Now you know how dumb what they do is, and it's the only reason they get any kind of play is because they just choose large cap, high liquidity, set a call slightly above and put slightly below. I don't do that when I'm setting it. I know everybody wishes that it could be just that easy where I write out an equation and say, hey, take this, multiply it by 0.25% and then negative 0.25%, and that's where your entries are for calls and puts. That is so stupid. And just by the way, look at the kind of movement you get here, right? So you could be in and out on both sides, and they pretend that's really easy. Well, you can get stopped out to the upside, then not have the buying power to get in on the downside. But no one ever has to talk about that because it's fantasy furu land. And I don't have like a super simple formula in that regard. Why might I change my price in the AM? I see activity here, right? I knew that I'd have a different opportunity. We had a pullback. Now, one of the things I'm looking at is volume. And I've said before in multiple occasions, I don't make any changes based on PM, AM sometimes. So why is it that I do sometimes and sometimes I don't? Well, one, looking at what I'm seeing in the general markets, right? Because the QQQ is 24 hours, and it can also be deceptive in the after hours. Anything in the after hours can be very deceptive. Be mindful of volume. Keep an eye on your calendars. Look for global economic events. That should give you an idea of what to expect with the market, or at least an inkling. That will often guide my decision making. So I start looking at the SPYs and the QQQ. That'll give me a pretty good indication. Then I check the news. I see what's going on in the global markets, right? So because I don't want to be caught flat-footed where I'm thinking, and this is, guys, if anything was going to show you how stupid and full of it these idiots are, and there's my bad language for the day, with their fake Levels, bro, it's levels. You don't know what you're talking about. You're making it up. They're not factoring global economic news. Nothing. It's just a binary, hey, take the ATR, multiply it by 0.2 to 0.25. On the positive, set it to your call. Negative, set it to your put. This is the stupidest thing ever. And I think they made a mistake by kind of putting that one out there. Because, yeah, that'll sell. That'll get you some Discord subscriptions and a few people going, oh my God, this guy is such a teacher. And it just revealed that you know nothing and will get laughed out of any serious room where stocks or options, derivatives, anything were being discussed. You're discounting price action. You're discounting news on the stock. You're discounting global activity. You're discounting every single thing there could be. So when we talk about where I set my trigger prices, if I see something significant, I will make a change. A great example that I'd like to go back to is a couple weeks ago, last week, we had a firm, and I actually adjusted our trigger point a little bit lower on entry because there was a downgrade. And it wasn't that I was concerned we weren't going to get our move up, because I still had a call, right? So you can go back, and I could retweet this later if you guys are interested in dissecting this. And this is how you'll actually learn. The person who wants to sell you the quick, the magic beans to plant for a livestock, for the stock that goes up into the clouds and gets you gold. And I'm butchering the story, Jack and the Beanstalk. But the person who wants to sell you the really quick fix, the magic pills, take this pill and your body will look like whatever you want it to. Follow this get rich quick scheme. That's all it is. It's a get rich quick scheme. Those are for selling. Those are not for getting you rich. They're for getting the seller rich. Get rich quick schemes don't work. When you're being taught about stocks and options in a get rich quick style way, like just multiply this way, bro, and this way, you're going to get absolutely fleeced. You're going to get taken for every penny that you got. The only person that ever gets rich is the person selling it. Same thing as back in the day, someone was selling magic snake oil. He's the only person who got rich, right? Those are the only people who get rich from these dumb ideas. You have to factor multiple data points. Let me get back to a firm, because this is really good for you guys to learn and understand from. So with a firm, we had a downgrade, right? And this was about a week back. So, and the chart looked like this. So let's just assume it's coin. So we had a downgrade, and I actually had my trigger point set, let's just say somewhere around here. And I knew we were getting a move, or, I was very confident and convicted to move. With the downgrade, you would think, oh, I'm going to cancel it because it's calls to the upside, right? That's what most people think. A lot of the Furus, if they knew anything and even looked at this kind of information, would be thinking, oh, it's a major downgrade. Maybe we should get our puts ready. No. The play was still coming. I was still convicted. But what I did is I gave us about 60% more profit. I moved down with my trigger because of the downgrade. So I was still expecting a run up, but I felt like there was going to be some panic selling early. We were going to get the move, and then whatever happened after that, we made our money. And it looked very much like this chart. We had a down move early, right? So Furu thinking, oh, it's puts time. No, it wasn't that substantial. And this is why, setting your triggers isn't a matter of just a simple formula. You get a downgrade. Okay. Do you actually understand what it means, or are you just taking it as downgrade equal bad equal puts? That's not the case, right? You have to understand the downgrade. You have to understand the news that you're reading. So when I read it, which I do, I looked at the full article, and the full article said, look, we're maintaining our rating. This is still neutral for us. We're just moving our price target down. So I knew that was going to cause some panicking in retail, because most retail don't understand that. They just think, oh no, the price was still way above where a firm was, right? But most retail think, oh no, this is bad news, I'm selling. So it sold, gave us moved down under our trigger, broke up, and then we got a much bigger move, because instead of having our trigger here and then getting the upside from here to here, I moved it down for us and we got in. I don't want to get too greedy because I knew we weren't going to sell off hard, because the smart money was staying in. We got our full move. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of news. You have to be able to read it. And sometimes it's something that's not significant at all. Like a lot of this news that you're seeing up here is nonsense. Kathy Woods loads up. I don't care. You're not even talking about coin. Like these are just related news. These aren't actual press releases or anything specific to the stock. Sometimes you'll get an analyst commenting. So not only is it what the analyst says, which analysts? Some analysts, when they say something, it has a major impact on the stock. Some analysts, doesn't have a major impact. And this will vary from industry to industry. I also look to see how the sector is moving. So there's a lot to look at. And then, like I said, when we look at pre-market after hours activity, sometimes there's nothing going on. Like, look at this. What is it? 3 shares. Do you see the volume here? I'm going to show you where the volume is. The volume, right? There you go. Let's just use this as an example. 100 shares, 381 shares, 900 shares, 452. Look at what we get when we open the day. 46,000, right? That was a moment of indecision. We were consolidating. 1,500, 5,000, 8,000, 4,800. Whereas in after hours, 100, right? 200, 100. We're not getting a very good sample pool here. It's not indicative of what's going to happen in the market. Like, I mean, even when you see this huge, what you would call like a massive candle, that was 1,696 shares. It was nowhere near as much as what we see here, right? So you can easily get, I don't want to use the word faked out. I mean, that is a fair term here. I just don't like it because all of the con artist clowns memorize that word. It's a fake out. It's what they say every time that their worthless plays don't work out. But you can be misled, right? Because if you look at this and you think, oh my God, it's making such a big move up, look at the volume, right? A little bit of volume can cause a dramatic change to the price. So some days I will adjust on volume, some days I won't. And I'm also factoring in, like I said, the QQQ, SPY, global economic events, and then I'm looking at news on those specific securities. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what I'm looking for when I'm evaluating our prices and whether I make adjustments. And, you know, that's why you'll see sometimes I don't make any adjustments at all, right? Sometimes I do. Sometimes they're subtle. Sometimes they're bigger. So that's why it gets a little bit, I say it's nuanced and there's no easy formula. Just taking news, for example, you have to understand news, right? If somebody said, if you read that fire at a semiconductor factory for NVIDIA, right? So that sounds really, really bad. But I can't tell you, oh, if it's bad news, move it down, move down a full point. Anybody doing that is an absolute con artist, and watch out. Why? Because what do we really know? I know that there was a fire. Okay, well, what was the impact of the fire? Did they put the fire out? Was it in the kitchen when someone was making grilled cheese? Or did it torch 50% of the manufacturing capacity? I need more details. It's bad. Without knowing much more, I might even take that as an opportunity to buy and scalp. So Stephen Volquez, hopefully that helps and helps people understand. So where I get my actual numbers, I have an idea of, that's where I start to use, and this is where I finally arrive at support and resistance points. Then I'll use them in proximity of where I feel the move is. So if I see a big move down and I think, okay, it's a significant move down on bad news. I had my trigger up here. I'm moving it down here. I have a general area based on news, macroeconomic events, and everything else. Then I'm going to go back to my support and resistance. But people who just do that, it's absolutely crazy. Why? Because what you see on this chart, these little candles, and again, it changes with the time frame, that does not supersede what's happening in real life. Like, I know people hate to hear this, and the con artists will blow their lids when I say something like this, because it would require them to actually know something about the stock market and options trading, which would destroy their entire businesses and their little pyramid schemes on Discord. But this means nothing, guys. Like like I said, I became licensed in 2005. Like, I became a professional in 2005. I've been around this a long time. Your little green and red candles, that doesn't call the shots, right? Do you think just because we saw massive quote unquote support here, let's find some support places. Oh, look, there's a lot of support, right? Got rejected here, got rejected here. I know how to use the Furu terms, right? Oh, same thing, got rejected here. So this is our supply and demand zone. Do you think that supersedes real news? Like, if we say Coinbase, like the federal government has just outlawed cryptocurrency, right? Or is introducing, you can no longer claim capital gains on any cryptocurrency despite your holding time. Do you think these little lines that you see in front of you would supersede that? That's what Furu's, it's the easier thing to do, because look, any of you right now could do this. Go, see this, guys? See? That's a support zone. And everybody go, oh yeah. See how it touched that and got rejected? I'm taking you through a con artist's version of this. All you have to do is say it with confidence. See how we got rejected in this area? So I'm looking for a break in this area, and that would be major upside. See how we couldn't break it? That's what they do. And I'm doing it in a way that's silly because I want you to understand how silly it is. Other factors are far more important. This just helps me narrow in. So if I'm saying, hey, it's going to be somewhere between like 232.75 and 233.50, then I'll narrow in and say, okay, well, there's a little bit here. You know, maybe some numbers have been set this way, and when they get tuned on the algorithms, which, by the way, factor in news, then there will be a change. But I've heard people say really dumb things like, al goes on, al goes off, the growth al goes on. You jokers don't understand what an algorithm is. You never would, because you're con artists. So I really, really wanted to speak openly and honestly about how I set my trigger points, and unfortunately tell you that, you know, there's no super easy way, but these are things that you have to evaluate. You want to get good at it, you have to put in the time and effort and understanding what news actually means. And like I said, a fire is a perfect example. Was it a fire in the kitchen when someone was making grilled cheese, or did it torch down a large portion of the semiconductor production capacity? Big difference. There's all kinds of difference. Let me get through some questions now, because I know I just said a lot, and then we'll catch up. So Robbie Smith, I won't say who I talk about, but you make me laugh. Let's see here. Taking base hits with 20% profits. I'm just going to, even though that's not about setting targets, that's awesome, Dan. I think one of the best things for people to do with growing accounts is take some small wins, right? You can set days where you could say, look, today I'm going to try and hit a home run. So if I was a growing investor, I might have went after it with something like Mara, because it was only, 9 cents, right? I might have just bought 10, 20 contracts and said, I'm going to get after it. I am setting more aggressive. I'm going to tolerate a 20% loss on this, and I want to hit 40, and you would have crushed it, right? So you just have to be strategic about what you're risking at any given point. But base hits, most important players in the game are consistent hitters, not just home run hitters, right? But I also don't know a lot about baseball, so maybe not the best person to use the analogies. Market orders upon hit. Yes, RS. Yeah, if you hit sell market, or if you have a trailing stop, your broker will convert it to market order. That's right. Jiggy Wiggy, where do you look for news like economic? Jiggy Wiggy, I've actually shared a few economic calendars. And I usually have a screen where I monitor about 4 or 5 of the different major news media outlets. You can use anything. You can use Yahoo Finance. You can use CNN. I do have subscriptions to Benzinga. You can also use in TD here. They have a live news feed where someone's just reading off, but it drove me crazy. I tried having the audio on. It's literally a guy just reading headlines one after the other, and God bless him. He's doing a good thing, but it's the same voice, and it's kind of monotone. If I was him, I'd be monotone too, but it just really distracted me after a while. But you could just have a window open with a few different places, and there's some third-party plugins for auto refreshing. And let's see here. Dan Sage, do you ever trade VIX or UVXY? Yeah, VIX sometimes. Yep. Pretty Lily, can you talk about Beyond Play when you get a chance? Yes, I will move to Beyond. I'll go over coin really quickly, then Beyond. I just want to make sure that we're really drilling home the triggers right here. Kwasny Bear. Okay. Hey, Kwasny Bear. Am I saying that properly? What's the reason / strategy for your 1 minute charts? I personally will have my heart racing, reacting when I watch 1 minute TF. Okay. I want as much data as possible. That's the perspective I want. I want to be as close to real time as possible. Now, it can be overwhelming. If you really want to go hardcore, you could turn on time and sales. I don't find that beneficial. There's a point of distraction and diminishing returns, but I just want as much data as possible. What I have said before in a post, and what I strongly believe that, is if you feel overwhelmed by the 1 minute candles, move to a higher time frame. Move to 3 minutes. Move to 5 minutes. Move to 10 minutes. Move to 15. And I'm not trying to be a philosopher. I always tell everybody, like, the funny thing is that a lot of the gurus like to tell you how to live. I'm not going to tell you how to live. My accomplishments speak for themselves. But if I was to give some advice that's very just generalized and applies here and anywhere else, anything that you find overwhelming, a good strategy is to just make it smaller than it is. So if the 1 minute is too much data, just back it out to 3, 5, 10 until you're comfortable and it doesn't feel like it's, as Kwasny Bear says, makes your heart race. Get it to a point where your heart's not pounding because it's so much data and you're just overwhelmed. And I do that with everything. Whatever the situation is, I just step back, calm down, make it smaller than it is to the best of your ability, whatever you're dealing with. It's an interview. You're just going in and talk to someone. It's not going to decide the fate of your life, right? Whatever it is that you're doing that you're feeling nervous about, make it smaller than it is, right? I think there's the rocking chair analogy. In 100 years, think of yourself when you're 100 years old on a rocking chair. Is this really going to be the make or break thing you're thinking about? For trading, probably not, right? For some interview or something, probably not. So just try to step back, make it easier. Jiggy Wiggy, why are we still convicted there's going to be upside? I think that was the question to affirm, and I think I touched on that earlier. Let me try to scroll down here, just get a couple more questions, and then we'll move to coin. But traders go back and stuff. Okay. Buyer of toys. This is Thinkorswim. You're asking what I'm using to show you these charts. Brody Yates. Great. Thank you. I know you asked the question, so have your answer. Nicole Woods. I think I answered on the what feeds I use. You know, you probably can't go wrong with any of the major outlets. Just tune out their opinions, and if they start trying to smuggle news in on you that has nothing to do with the markets, just be wise to it, because some of it, they've all got their bias and their own narratives that they're trying to push about a million one different things. I don't want to hear about it, right? That makes their lives better. If I sit and listen to them talk about politics or anything else, you're selling me and makes your life better. That's not going to help me in my trading. So don't try and sneak your other news in on me. If I find that, I stop listening to that news outlet. So there's some of them that I cut off because they just can't help themselves. They have to talk politics or sneak something else in there that is really irrelevant. I get out of there right away. You know, if I want other news, then I can. These days, I can't get away from other news. So I definitely don't need them to smuggle it into my trading. I'm focused. I'm here to do something good, right? And when it comes to this, I don't care about any other data. Unless it's something like, you know, there's an earthquake or there's a war happening, then yes, you can override my regular news for that. Should we jump in? Scar Productions, if it's over resistance support coming into the market, I think you're wondering about whether when something starts above, let's say a call trigger. So if this is the price, it's up here, and you'll notice my call trigger is below. You think that's counterintuitive, but it means that I believe there's going to be a sell-off in the morning, and we're going to have an opportunity to run. Doesn't always work. I know that some people have said, hey, this is the method. I don't always do that. And I made a mistake. I underestimated where we were going with BYND today. I mean, directionally, I was dead on. All the data was dead on, but I noted in the morning I was going to be conservative. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have been conservative. That could have been a better play for me. So let's see here. Just trying to skim through. Zohan asked a good question. Are those support and resistance line really not helpful, or are you saying that they aren't useful when there is news? What I'm saying, Zohan, is that one of the biggest scams out there is this whole support and resistance thing, because I changed this right now, right here. Charts look very different, right? I mean, you can still be like, well, it's kind of here, but now it's all wicks all over the place. Not as clean as it was a minute ago. Same chart, same data. It's trickery with, I'm just using trickery, right? Because I'm just finding the one that I want. Like here, this would be, I could say, oh, this is perfect. Look how they're all right here. Oh my God, this is such a support and resistance zone. All right, well, we'll go back here. Doesn't look nearly as clean, does it? So now you have to draw wider lines. So it's a lot of nonsense and trickery, if not taken in context. I would say it's a minor piece that only makes sense in context with everything else, right? Because no one cares about this if something major happens to the stock or if something major happens to the market. What if we have a market crash? Do you think people are going to say, whoa, 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 leave coin alone? That is a resistance zone, and we can't break a resistance zone. Yeah, I guess not. Because look, we smashed through look at this. Here's your resistance zone from the fake gurus. Well, we smashed through it, but we also plummeted under it. And we also stuck around in it. And then we hung around in it again. So it means absolutely nothing, right? It's just the way that you frame it. And that's what a good con artist does. They say, hey, look at this. Look from a different angle. Have you guys ever seen a magic trick with cards? All it is just tricking someone on their perception. I know some pretty good ones, actually. But it's just perception. It's just trickery. So in context, yeah, there's some value there. Absolutely. But here's what the fakes do is they make this the primary and everything else doesn't even get discussed. What I'm saying is it's macroeconomic events, market conditions, company news, company data, options flow, all far ahead of support and resistance. Then as I'm narrowing into my exact price, support and resistance help me kind of get the specific number. But I will be somewhere in between here and here just based on the other data, and then I'll narrow in. The reason that you don't see that is because this is easy to do. You don't have to know anything about stocks to sell people on this, right? Because look what I just showed you guys earlier. Imagine if you know nothing, just start drawing lines. Go see how this is kind of the midpoint and this is the ceiling. And if we break through and there's support here because it kept going up, you're reading in hindsight. That's why it's such a scam, is it doesn't take conviction. You're not predicting anything, right? That's why the same thing as doing calls and puts on the same stock. It's you're guaranteeing one way or another. You're never putting your neck out or predicting anything because the point isn't to be a good trader, and they're not trading for themselves. They're out there to make money off Discord. So if you're out there to make money off people getting in your Discord, you want to get as many things right as possible. So you do calls and puts. If you're out there because you're actually trading for yourself, then you're not doing something stupid like that. It just doesn't happen. So that's my answer on support and resistance zones. It's very useful, but it's the last piece of the puzzle that goes in place after all of the other things which are far more important. And if you ever wonder about it and someone ever gets in your ear and makes a big story and posts their Rolex, just think to yourself, would anybody give a damn that this is a supposed support zone, resistance zone, if something amazing happened? I don't know, Tesla was going to buy Coinbase for $13 billion today, and it got announced. And Elon Musk was going to run Coinbase and wanted to be the new face of crypto. Do you think people would say, oh, we can't get through there? That's a resistance zone. No. So that's how dumb it is, right? Other factors, or if there was a war that broke out or a new global crisis, no one would care about your support and resistance. That's why it takes backseat. And when you see a massive options flow, it tells you that buys are on the way or sales are on the way. That gives you much higher conviction than these little zones, right? And I think Wall Street takes advantage of people who overfixate on these so-called zones. That's where they're like, yeah, the average person who doesn't know anything, hasn't put the years in or time in, but they'll learn how to look at a graph and go, that looks like the top and that looks like the bottom. Does that help? I like to be really thorough because I don't want anybody to leave with any doubt, because then you go and you listen to some other fool and go, I don't know who's right. I want to make it clear, and I'll debate with any of them. I mean, we can have these conversations, but like I say, when you live in your mom's basement, or I guess now they live in nice big houses with Rolexes because they stole all their money from Twitter followers. But when you do, you don't want to debate because you actually don't know what you're talking about. So let's see here. Pretty Lily, those numbers are the strat. Yeah, and I gave my thoughts on the strat in the last chat we had, so I'm not going to go over it. I don't trade the strat. It's not a viable trading system. But when I'm not near my PC, I do find these numbers helpful, just visually, because I have some really big monitors and some really small ones. Well, comparatively, I've used a TV for one of them, which I'm not a fan of just because the resolution isn't perfect. But it just helps me visualize, and I could see if something's up or down, just based on the number. And it kind of tells me what happened with the price action. So I'm going to move my mouse here. So this is where you see a lot of price action, right? You can see the bid and the ask. I watch that a lot, but this is really small, and I can't see that from a distance. It's not that I have vision problems. It's really hard to see. And I find staring at this for very, very long periods of time is just, it's not feasible. It's not realistic. You can't do it. You start getting dizzy. You lose your focus. So there you go. So let's see. Does that all make sense to everybody when I was explaining support and resistance? Like how it will be shattered if there's anything of any significance. So let me see here. See if there's any other questions, and we'll look at coin and we'll move through a couple really cool trades today. Harvey Montez, the pink and purple, that's RVOL. So that's part of price action. RVOL is real. It's not some made up indicator. That's real. It's relative volume standard deviation. Do you use take profit stop loaders just with Live Trader? I don't, but I think it's a good idea for people to do so. CG, awesome. Welcome to, I'm assuming you're talking about Unusual Whales. Use my coupon code. Did you, Brengels Mendoza, do you trade all the tickers from the watch list? No, absolutely not. On a day like today, I can't, right? Because they're triggering at the same time. So it's whichever falls into my focus, which is approaching more quickly. I see it, I'll take that. But if coin and Mara are both breaking through at around the same time within seconds from each other, probably not taking both. Particularly here, and I gave a note this morning, I said, try to narrow your focus on one. I mean, if you could play two, it's great, but narrow your focus on one just because it's the same sector. So you're getting exposure to crypto through either one of them. And again, something that the Furus would never, ever say something like that because they wouldn't understand it. But when I'm saying you've got a watch list of 5 or 6, if you see two that are the same sector, and they're both kind of approaching, pick one. Pick one to zoom in on, because if you try to follow everything, you'll get nothing. So zoom in on one, and here, it's just a matter of exposure. So I speak in terms of exposure a lot because when I'm managing my private equity, I should say, I'm not the only person, but when I'm managing private equity, it's all about exposure. So we'll take up positions in different sectors and then maybe not pick up another security in that same sector because we already have exposure. So for example, if I have, 1,000 shares of Coinbase in my portfolio, which we do hold coin, I wouldn't be as tempted to pick up Mara unless I had some strong reason to do so because I already have exposure to crypto, right? So if we were getting really granular, I might add Mara, like if I'd start differentiating between the two. But that's usually when you get into multi-billion-dollar funds, and I don't manage a multi-billion-dollar fund. So that gives you the answer there. No, I don't play them all. It's just not possible. And let me see here. Okay. So guys, I'm going to just get your questions queued up. We're going to go through and look at Coinbase here. I mean, Coinbase is pretty straightforward for the entry. Let me zoom out. So there's a little bit of chop. This is opening range. If you're in an opening range, right? I mean, you could have gotten in here and gotten out and made money. You can also get stopped out. There's a lot of opportunities because these are pretty sizable moves. So you could be taking small profits or even hitting like a short stop loss. Re-entry is perfect. We didn't quite make it here. We saw a big move down. On this big move up, I wouldn't have taken, might not have taken it on the big move up, right? Because we started at 231.23 all the way up through 233.12. But if you could get in on a good spread, then you could have been able to tolerate this pullback, no problem. So this would have been completely okay if you got a good spread. And if not, perfect opportunity to get in here. Then you don't have to worry about it. You're not going to get stopped out here. A little bit of consolidation. So this was a great area from the top of this candle, as you would call it, the wick, right on through here. You had a couple minutes to grab and go, and then it's green. I mean, this is as evergreen as it gets, right? Very small pullback, and this is fantastic. I think even if you're running a tight trailing stop because it's a Friday, you actually would have been able to ride till around here. If you had a tight trailing stop, you would have maybe stopped out here if it's on your full position, but there was just nothing but upside here. This wouldn't have stopped you out. This would have taken you all the way up. So even trailing stops, really tight and aggressive, which I completely understand, you would run for over 2 points and you would have made money on the IV. So most people maybe don't know that, but part of what you're making money on isn't just the move up in the stock. It's the increase in the IV. So people are paying higher premiums to get into your contracts because there's such a big move. The idea is, or the thinking is, this is taking off. I'll not only pay you what it's worth, I'll pay you a little bit more because I think that it's taken off like a rocket ship, and they understand that some people might not want to sell for less because they're seeing such quick moves. And then, I mean, if you would have held some of your position, like I always say, you probably start scaling out. Like this is a good call for you to scale out. We have open here. We run up somewhere around here just because it's such a big pullback, right? If you got all the way up to 238.50 and then all the way down to 236, I think you would have taken off some size here, probably take off some of your size here and here, and you should be out of the trade. So this actually just worked out to where, you know, your last move should have been near the peak. Is it likely that you took everything off at the peak? If you kind of made a good educated guess or you had a crystal ball, then sure, then you could wait all the way to here and just take off at here. I don't think that's realistic though, because what was your indicator other than a guess or a feel, or maybe you just got nervous because you're so far ahead? But that's not realistic. That's not where I'm exiting here. I'm taking off a little bit of size here because it's a Friday and I'm holding, and I'm probably taking the rest off here. After we're here, I might even start scaling out, scale out, scale out, scale out. So my exit will be a combination of what I took off here and then what I took off around here. That's how it would be for me. And that's a fortunate day. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes we'll run much higher and I would have exited, right? Regardless of what happened after this candle, this would have been likely where I exited the rest of my position. So that's our play on coin. Let me zoom out. And then the breakdown. And I always say this too. If you're listening to anything I say and we look at what happens later, this should have nothing to do with you. You're not in this trade at this point. If you are, I don't know what wild YOLO trader you're listening to, or person who put up some weird emoji, or, you know, what fake guru you're listening to, but they did you no good, right? You should have been out a long time ago. This is a steady breakdown. Look how long it takes for you to get back to break even. You'd have to suffer from here all the way down here. Like here should have scared you right out of your position and told you that you held way too long. But then you came right back up and you allowed yourself to break down. Nobody's doing it. And I don't think that's happening anyhow. I know all of you know better, and you're better traders than maybe you were at one point because you're taking some profits. Okay, so I'll do a quick stopover for some questions. And then, like I said, and guys, feel free to ask whatever questions you want. This is not Furu land. I don't hide. You guys know that I respond to all my DMs, although it's getting harder. I've got a list of DMs to respond to. But I get to them. I get to every question that I can, and it doesn't matter how hard the question is. Call it out. Call out anything you want. Ask the hardest questions, the worst ones. The Furus will hide your responses, and because they don't want you to tell everybody. And then they'll block you eventually, and they'll push you out of their rooms and bully you and use their fake accounts to try and call you names. I'm not going to do that. Ask me something. If you think I'm doing something that's not perfect, let me know. I don't like anything that's not perfect. And I'll be honest with you. We had 285%, 300% trades today. The first thing I looked at, I was frustrated with myself on the ones that didn't go my way, because celebrating what I did right isn't going to make me better. Figuring out what I did wrong is. It's not like I was in a depression, but I was pretty annoyed because there were some good moves to be had, and I want to understand what I could have done better. And if there's nothing I could have done better, sometimes you just have to recognize that there was an amazing trade and you just could not foresee it or anticipate it. But I need to know 100% that's the case before I feel okay about something. And I'm not done my analysis. I'm doing some analysis on Roblox, and also on BYND. I think I know what I could have done better on BYND. Roblox, and do a little bit more digging. So let me see here. It's too bad I can't mark in the chat to know when my last response was, because I try to scroll back. And just FYI, if I miss any of your questions in here, I wasn't trying to avoid it. Please ask it again. I don't mean any disrespect to anybody. That's not who I am. Everybody in this room is like, everybody's equal, and all your questions matter. And it's just, I'm not like that. You're not going to see me posting photos of my watch, and I don't look down on people, and not full of it. Let's see here. Snoopy Jag, assuming macro factors equal constant, when you change your trigger based on price action in the PM, are you referring to only volume and price that is significant relative to regular trading hours? Yeah, so if all else is equal, and it almost never is, because again, I'm also watching the general markets, then if there's a change, it must be that I saw something in the AM PM that's caught my attention, right? And I also will use some historical options flow data, just depending on the expiry. So I do keep some data on that. If anything really catches my eye and I see there wasn't a move, I will keep track of that. So you guys will notice sometimes I circle back and someone, it's so funny because I've seen some of these fake gurus try to say something early on and criticize, and then the trade, like there was one on Piton and I think it ran for 200% and someone did a face palm, right? And I don't think they knew that I saw it because they were doing it to someone else who commented. And then I was kind of like, yeah, well, look where that trade went. But I usually don't reply. I don't get into it. But I do keep an eye on historical data. Yeah. And that was one of those trades that we took, was partly on historical data because I hadn't seen the move get made. So everybody was just looking at what happened yesterday and saying, oh, there's no flow. What are you seeing? What are you seeing? And I posted some historical data and was saying, look, I see a slightly bullish flow from yesterday, but I also see a big move from about 6 days ago that hasn't been realized yet. So I think the combination thereof, plus some decent news, we're making our move today, and we did. So there you go. Bert's, so you don't think support and resistance zones are real? No, I kind of touched on it. I'm saying they're useful, but it's just waiting, right? So BTRDZ, I guess I read that as Bert's. BTRDZ, it's everything's taken in context. So when I come up with my trade thesis, when I do anything, it's a weighting system, right? Fakes always want the quick, like, this is how you do it. You close your eyes and you spin around in a circle and you point at something on a chart. No, it's weighted, right? So like I said, perfect example is news. It's the easiest one to explain weighting. If I see update that there was a fire at NVIDIA's headquarters or their production facility, and turns out that it was just a fire in the kitchen, I don't care. That does nothing to me. I put like no weight on that. If a little bit of damage occurred, what they assume is like $70,000, I don't care. If I see something that says, it was damage to their systems and they're trying to evaluate it, there's concern, and they still don't know, I'm going to be a little bit more bearish because investors don't like that. Even if it turns out to not be important, they say, hey, we salvaged everything. Investors don't like talks of uncertainty. Once you say we're not sure what the damage was, but there was a fire, it was a pretty significant fire, you're going to get some panic selling. And that's how it works with everything. So everything is weighted. Support and resistance zones get the least weighting out of everything because they're clearly not as important to what's actually happening in real life. Your images on a screen are not as important to what's actually happening. They're not as important as the news. They're not as important as macroeconomic events. They're not as important as what's happening in the general markets. And I will unpack that really quickly because you tell me what's more important. A few lines on a page or an announcement that we're going to war, that there's a nuclear war breaking out. And I'm just giving an extreme global event. What's more important, these little lines on a page, or there's a crash in the QQQ and SPY and the general markets are tanking. The Feds have introduced aggressive rate hikes and we are tapering immediately to get inflation under control, right? So other things take far more priority. Let's see. And if you're using options flow data, yeah, that if I know that a whale is making a big move in one direction, they don't care about your lines on a page. They're building a position or they're divesting. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm going to say Bert's because BTRDZ. Yeah, so RS, so price action is basically based on the volume and the stock price. Yeah, and it takes a long time to get used to, but yeah, that's what price action is. What is price action? What is happening on the market? What are the things that are real? Price and volume. Something sold, okay, how much? This many shares, 1,000 of them. How much did it sell for? This was the price. How much? How many? That's all that's happening all day. Everything you're seeing here is how much and how many. See these graphs? This is overlapping volume. That's how many. This is price. How much? How many? This also tells me how many. It's just the rest of this is all just perspective. Like this kind of tells me how quickly things change, so I'll understand volatility. And this tells me what the changes were because I could see it visually. And this tells me how much occurred, so how impactful that change might be. But that's all it is. So let me see some more questions. Do you set an order to buy when it hits your strike price conditional, or do you wait? Stefan Volquez, I think that's talking about purchasing at the underlying. Let me know if I'm incorrect there, because I want to make sure that I actually answer your question, not the question that I perhaps accidentally interpreted to be. But no, I never purchase based on the underlying price and automate it. RS, how much time are you maxing to trade to make sure that time decay isn't eating your P&L? Max 1 hour in and out? Great question. I don't set a time frame because I'm watching the price, right? I know the value of my option. So if it's decaying at a rate that I'm uncomfortable with, I'm out, right? So if I tell myself I'm up 25% and I see it start going down and now I'm down to 20%, if that was my limit and that's my exit strategy, I exit. I don't care whether the reason for that was because the stock pulled back organically based on price action, or if it was Theta and people were discounting the price because of time decay. It amounts to the exact same thing. The value of what I'm holding has dropped. I'm out. So I don't really care beyond that. I caution Theta because it can cause quicker moves that people are not ready for. And I find it to be far more impactful on swing trades because then you're exposed to Theta overnight. The other reason that I really caution Theta on Fridays is you can be going sideways and the price of your contract will go down. Now, if you're a disciplined trader, you don't even ask questions. You just say, hey, yeah, I dropped to X percent. I was up 35%. I'm out 25. I'm out. But what can happen is if people don't at least understand why, they think something's going wrong. What's going on? The price hasn't dropped. This must just be a glitch. This must be something must be wrong. It causes panic. So I don't want them to think, I'm going sideways. Why is it going down? No, I'm not going to exit. I'm going to hold because something must be wrong here. Something's not wrong. There's a reason it's going down. It's Theta, right? You're going sideways with the price. Like if there's no jump in the price and Theta's in full force, it's going to be a weird phenomenon if you don't understand it, because you're going to be thinking, hey, we've been, within a little range. Let's just say this is what we were doing. Follow my cursor. Price was staying here. And then your contract was doing this, just going down, 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 down. It can be shocking and cause you to hang on longer than you should. So I like people to know, it's like, hey, this is Friday. It's going to go down, period. But I don't set my time based on Theta. I set it based on the price, right? Because what do I sell? I sell at the price. I sell at the bid and, buy in at the bid ask. And when you're looking at spreads, I don't care about theoretical. I care about what's real in front of me. However, with that said, I know that Theta is real if it's a swing trade, so I do watch that. Jose Luis DeLuc, can you explain Roblox today? I think no one got it today. What happened? Some people took it directionally because they were looking for a pullback off the peak. Congratulations to them. Like I always say, a lot of people take my call-outs and do an even better job than I do with them sometimes. If you're confident and you're used to it. I didn't. I noted early in the morning I was going to be very aggressive with some of my entry points. I wanted Roblox to make a bigger move. I'm going to move over there right now. So here's where we got with Roblox. If you looked at my first trigger, it was actually a lot less aggressive with respects to where we had the close. I was just aggressive. I was thinking that we were going to get a much stronger early run and then we were going to get a big pullback. So pattern-wise, yeah, I nailed it. We got a big run and then a huge pullback. This is what I wanted to see, but I didn't want to see it like this. I wanted to see it here and then crash down. I missed. And when I mentioned it earlier, I told you guys that I had the suspicion. So that shows you get the idea that I'm not just pulling rabbits out of my hat. I have an understanding. I was saying I'm going to be very conservative. This is conservative. I wanted a little bit more. But still, that's something, as I noted earlier in this live stream, I haven't finished fully going through to identify what I could have done better, if anything. Sometimes, like I said, you did it perfectly. It just didn't happen the way you wanted it to. But I need to know that 100% before I'm comfortable. It's great that I get the ones right that I do. But I think that's dangerous. I don't just sit around celebrating my good ones. I scrutinize when I miss or don't call something or don't nail it. So it's not like we took the trade and got hurt. But yeah, it bothers me. And so until I have an answer, I'm not okay with it. And right now I don't have an answer as to what I could have done differently. But again, we didn't take this trade. And part of that I'm happy with is I wanted to reduce exposure. That's why I had it up here, right? Reduce exposure and potentially get a bigger return. So I'm always protecting, preserving capital first. That's why when these guys use their whole like 25% above ATR, you would have gotten burned. You would have gotten right around here and then would have tanked on you. This is about 25% ATR above close, actually probably around here. So you would have gotten right here, not made any money, and then would have crashed really quick, and then the IV would have burned you. I don't do that. So that's my talk on RBLX, and I'll look at it more. Buyer of toys. Thank you. Well, I won't read it out loud because it's flattery, and I get a little bashful. Too much flattery, but you're very welcome, and that is very fulfilling for me to read. Buyer of toys. So just know that. Okay, a couple more questions, and then we'll look over. RS, many plays didn't hit the trigger today. How much do you respect your triggers to avoid chasing? Quite a bit. I'm highly convicted when I make my watch lists, and I stick to them. If you look at the results that I've had, right, this is directional without doing calls and puts. Like I'm putting it on the line, and I'm saying, look, we're only going one way. It's only calls. Like I am choosing the direction of the stock, which is the hardest thing to do. If you just say a stock's going to go up and down throughout the day, yeah, whatever. Every stock does that a little bit. If you flip a coin and you choose a direction, it's one thing. I'm saying here's the direction, here's the entry. I stick to it pretty hard, but what I will do, RS, is I will scalp based on my directional conviction. So let's say I don't get what I want here, but I see Roblox pulling back. I might have started scalping here because I knew that Roblox, or I was highly convicted the idea that Roblox was going to make a run up, right? Because here's where we were pre-market. We're around here when I put out the watch list. I was highly convicted to the idea of a run up, and I know that there's a potential for some profit taking early, followed by a big pullback. That was the idea. Only I wanted to run up here. Once I saw this, I started watching closely, just on the side graph. I didn't get in, but this is something I would absolutely scalp. So I do make different moves based on my directional plays, but it's irresponsible for me to try to call that out given the time constraints. And I'm not as highly convicted if it doesn't hit my trigger to the point where I would call it out. So there's my conviction for taking trades, and there's my conviction for calling out trades. And I will always err on the side of caution, because you can make a lot of money just, following even just my call outs. They're just trade ideas. But if you were to execute those ideas properly, I mean, I've seen how well some people are doing, and there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. No need to get greedy and chase things that aren't as convicted to. Does that make sense? I want to protect you guys first. I know that I could maybe do something like this, and if I take a loss because I do something silly, it's okay. I hate the idea of anybody else taking a loss. That's why I was going off yesterday about this fake ATR nonsense. Unfollow those schmucks. Let's see here. Anthony Brown, how do you confirm conviction play or right at open? Recently, some winning plays have happened at open. I never want to chase, but when I do wait to play, I get stopped out. Anthony Brown, the opening range is highly volatile. So you're recognizing it's a bigger risk of getting stopped out, but the upside is potentially higher, or at least faster. It is a little bit tricky. First couple seconds, I'm not a fan unless I am just totally thinking something's completely primed to go, which is kind of how I felt about BYND today. I thought maybe we get a tiny bit of a pullback, so I got a bit greedy there. But it's a matter of making a decision, and that's just recently. If you look in the last 10 days, or maybe even 7-8 days, much more plays that triggered early. But we get quite a few that give you other opportunities. I think Mara is a fantastic example, right? So here's Mara. It's where most of us got in here. Look at that run up. This I took some size off here, got a little bit more of my size off here, and I waited around here, got a bit more, and a tiny bit left. I got out around here. So my average was probably somewhere in here, which I thought was fantastic for the morning. Mara, actually, I bought around here. But we all got in close to the same spot. I think I maybe got 1 cent lower than everybody else. It was a risk I took on my end. But here's a perfect example. If you didn't want to take the open, Anthony Brown, okay, you missed it. Don't worry about it. Look, here's a fantastic opportunity. Here, too fast to move, right? I talk about just these quick moves. I let it consolidate. The consolidate broke down. Here, fast move. You could have taken it back around here, right? Because I don't think the price would have changed by more than a cent. That wouldn't have been the worst thing to do. But this is also a quick move. These are also quick moves to hit the break. But then look at this break, right? If you get in here and you're able to get your price, what I'm saying is you might have got the same price here as it was here. That's a valid entry, right? Because you're not paying more. You would have moved up to here. You'd have made a good profit, right? You'd have made a really good profit because it was such an inexpensive cost for the option at that point. So it's all relative. You're buying in at 10 cents. It's 17 cents here. Doesn't sound like a lot. That's 70%. I don't know why you would hold on to here. Maybe you take some size off. I'd probably just get out on a pullback, right? Because if I'm buying in at 10 cents and I'm at 17 cents, I'm not suffering much of a loss. I might let it come to 16, maybe 15. Then I am out because I want my 50%. But point being, yielded some extra opportunities to enter, right? Coin did as well. Coin, I think you would have maybe hit 15% here. This would have probably been a stop out. And as we get later in the day, less convicted once we've seen sustained amount of time above our trigger and in the profit zone. So let me take questions. We went over coin. We took a look at Roblox. We just took a look at Mara. We're going to take a look at this heartbreaking killer, BYND. Yeah, so I wanted a little bit of a pullback, but BYND was just an absolute rocket ship. It was primed. Let me show you what I had as the basis for our trade with BYND as well. Here we are on Unusual Whales. I posted this yesterday. So, if you were ever primed to go, bring your attention here, guys. Look at the expiry date, right? See the expiry date? That's today. This is all expiring today. These are highly convicted players. And this is significant money. This is not your meme crew on Reddit. Maybe one of them is. These are big players that are coming, and they're coming in heavy. And they're coming in throughout the day. Look, 9 a.m. Our last is 13:51, so that's 1:51, 2:51 Eastern Standard Time, hour before the closing bell. So this was absolutely prime. So the data basis that I provide. So when we talk about my triggers and my plays, I can explain it, and it's only one side. I saw people, some of these fake gurus, calling BYND out to the upside and downside, and I was just like, how does anybody follow you guys? You can't read this. You can't understand this is only indicating one side. You are so committed to your scam of upside and downside that even when you see something like this, you go, but I got to make sure I get more clicks and likes in case it goes down. You gutless weasels. Anybody who couldn't read this is out of their minds. I understand not knowing how to set a trigger price, but doing a calls and puts on this, my God. And I saw one of them tweet it, then delete it. I won't mention his name. It's one that's been the subject of a lot of things lately. But yeah, just wild. So give you an idea on BYND what we saw. I want to talk about Unusual Whales there and show you the data basis for our trades. That was a data basis for this trade. And look, it traded the way that the data basis from Unusual Whales looked, right? Does that make sense? Like it looks like a rocket ship primed to go, and it ran like a rocket ship that was primed to go. So hopefully that helps you guys understand. I was off my trigger, maybe a little bit greedy, maybe a little bit conservative. I think I do have a clear understanding of what I did. I was just too conservative because I know there's some volatility, meme stock, but they had good news. You guys are seeing some of the news here. KFC to launch Beyond Meat. I think that sort of retail integration, if you will, for Beyond Meat is critical. And if their production continues and they can scale and onboard some more partners and make it an effective deal business-wise for them to onboard Beyond Meat's products, I think they have a lot of runway. This is just me speaking from a fundamental and long-term standpoint. I think that otherwise the stock price was inflated because there's a lot of, hopes of this, what I would call a dystopian future where everybody is forced to eat only Beyond Meat or whatever they're dreaming of, and people started thinking of that, that's more ideological. I focus on what's real with the stock. Maybe that's a beautiful future. Maybe it's not. Maybe we can all eat differently. Tell me what your sales are, right? Save the storyline for trying to schmamoozle your investors. Schmamoozle. I think that's a made-up word, but we're going to pretend it's real. Oh, well, Furus can make things up, so there you go. I made up a word. But it ran the way the flow looked, and I do think, you see KFC here. That's going to open the door. KFC is cross-linked to some other franchises. I think this is the strategy for Beyond Meat. If we could see more of this news in the future, we could see this become quite the interesting stock play because it gets I don't want to say overhyped, over enthusiastic buyers line up to run it. So a little bit of a fundamental analysis on Beyond Meat to get from here to there is a bit of a step. I think KFC has had some, I want to say, struggles. I think that would be fair. And I think this may have been a move where they're trying to be aggressive and pivot so they can capture some of the market. I'd like to see Beyond Meat scale their production and improve their products such that they become attractive to major players. Like, for example, the McDonald's and Subways and all kinds of other players who say something along the lines of, look, it would cost us X amount of money to set up our own facilities and continue pursuing this on our own. Beyond Meat seems to have the recipe, pun intended, for this meat alternative program, and they also have the capacity and the infrastructure. Could make them an interesting acquisition target, or just a great partner to onboard. But right now, I think that as it becomes more popular and higher demand, I think that the big players might just want to do it themselves, whereas KFC was trying to be aggressive. So that's what I see for it in the future. And now you're getting a little bit more insight into what I consider and some of the homework that I do on a stock. So it's not just check unusual whales, look at lines on a page, decide. Yeah, I'm thinking in these terms, and I do like what this represented for Beyond, and I'm not surprised to see the move that we saw. Not surprised at all. I'm not surprised to see this pullback. There's always going to be profit taking because you have sellers who are just waiting on overly enthusiastic buyers. But what it represents is a potential that always hypes up buyers. So let's take questions because I touch on something a little different there. So I think that might be interesting to some of you. Let's see. Exit breakdown on coin, if you don't mind. Charles Pinko, let me know if I cover that. If I didn't, I can go back and do that. Dan Sage, why does big money buy in the money options example Roku 205 puts when it's trading at 184? Great. Sorry, touched my microphone there. Great question. Please take a look at my DTE video. I touch on that quite a bit, but I'll give you the quick notes. But the reason I refer you over to that is not just because I'm trying to send you over. Like one person's going to make my YouTube channel go viral. But I actually want you to have a deep understanding, right? And that's what I criticize Furus for. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite where I just try to skim past things. Dan Sage, there's a bunch of reasons. So one of them is to hedge, and it's risk mitigation, that you might go a little bit deeper in the money to mitigate your exposure, right? Because they're making decisions based on exposure. They're not as comfortable with buying massive positions out of the money. One reason for that, in addition to just your surface value exposure, is also liquidity. Liquidity is something that you calculate when you're evaluating risk. We don't evaluate it as much unless you're looking at a really low volume security or options chain. Institutions absolutely have to. So let me speak to that in a different way. So if you buy 10 contracts of Mara, you're not really concerned. You could buy 10 contracts and sell 10 contracts of Mara, or if you buy 30 contracts of Tesla, whatever it is, you as an individual can get in and out of your positions, no problem, right? You can sell for what the market has as a bid. When you get to the size of institutions, that's not the case, right? The bid price is not their price. And it's kind of wild for us to think of, because you'd think, what do you mean? The bid is what it could sell for. That's how we realize our P&L when we're in our trading days, right? That's how you set your stop losses. You're like, okay, how much can I get for this? Is the bid dropped? I'm out. It's not the same. It is not the same for an institution, because the amount that's sitting at that bid is sufficient to fill your order, is not sufficient to fill their 2,000 contracts, right? So they want that liquidity, and you can improve your chances of, well, almost guarantee your chances to lock in profits and mitigate risk when you're in the money, because in the worst case scenario, let's say that they aren't able to liquidate all of their contracts, right? You're at least able to convert those contracts and exercise them, right? Because they're in the money. Out of the money contracts, there's no intrinsic value. So they're not converted. You don't exercise out of the money contracts. But one risk mitigation tactic is to know that you are insured, that you can always exercise those contracts. So that's just part of the liquidity equation. I hope that gives you some insight, and I touch on it more in the DTE video. RS. How do you select specific call or put options? Is it based on volume of options, open interest, trigger? Great question. Yeah, that's a big piece of the pie as well. Not just the trigger setting, not just the call outs, not just the fundamental, the news, all the other sort of thing, is I really scrutinize options contracts. So first of all, we absolutely need liquidity. I just touched on that. We need to have the ability to sell, right? I can't call, particularly knowing that there's a group following me now, I can't call out something where there are 9 contracts traded yesterday, and then, I know that there's always a possibility that we have hundreds of people going in, or dozens, let's say, purchasing contracts, and then they can't get out. Well, what are we going to do? Sell to each other and play a game of hot potato? Last one out gets torched. I think someone wrote torched in my comments, and it's stuck in my head. I don't know why I keep saying that. Burned. Anyway, someone subliminally put that word in my head. Yeah, I have to look at options, open interest. I'm also very concerned about spreads. I don't want to go on really wide spreads. And I try to look at historical data because, if you look at the end of the day, the spreads are going to be deceptive because they widen. So that's another thing people are looking at. Again, when I see this with the Furus doing it, they always just go close to the money because they don't know what they're talking about. So on a day like today, I was aggressive with Mara. You saw how low cost, that was intentional. I wanted those few points to really just pump our returns up quickly. Said differently, I knew it was going to be around the 10, 12 cent mark, or maybe 8 cents. And knowing that, I knew that we jump in, we buy our contracts at 10 cents. It goes up to 12 cents. You're already up 20%. It went up to 30 some odd cents. We could take a look here. This is the history of Mara. So, yeah. I think it was, 38 cents? If you look over here, this is where the price is. There. Yeah. So we were in around... Yeah, our trade was around here. Oh, was it? Yeah, about 9-10 cents, right? Out for 38.39. A different contract, you might have been in at $1.22 and out at $1.71 on the peak. Well, that's great, but that is nothing like what we did here with 10 cents, 38. So I'm also looking for the most upside, right? It depends on the kind of run, and knowing on a Friday, just to give you an example, I know on the Friday, given the delta, given the time decay, given the volatility, I know our price is going to be at a major discount. So that also means every cent is going to constitute a much larger change for us. I saw the volume I wanted. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. And yes, these days a factor for me is the liquidity that might be adequate for a larger group here. If we got to 100,000 people in here, it might even be different. But yeah, so there's a lot of things that get considered in there. Let me take a look at the next question. So, BTRDZ, what about using zones to take profit and position risk off? To me, it makes sense to scale at these areas, or you could say off of balance. Thoughts? No. It only makes sense because your perspective, right? You follow a good trading strategy. Let me put it this way. What if it doesn't? What if it doesn't bounce off something that you think is a zone, right? Because where is it? So we're in at 27.95. How do you know 28's not a zone? That sounds like a good, well-rounded number. How about 28.20? How about 28.50? And I guarantee I could pull you back and show you how these could be zones if you look at some of the candles from the past, right? So why would that make sense? What always makes sense is not worrying about someone else's quote unquote number, worrying about your number, your P&L. You exit based on your P&L. That's what puts money in your account. Not someone else's, well, this is what would make sense. Because then you could just do it and say it makes sense. I could say I had this as a zone, and I can give you all kinds of reasons as to why this is a zone or a target zone or an area of supply, an area of support resistance. And then I got out here. Well, if it pulls back, it can go like, knew it. That was so smart. Yeah, what if it does this? And you weren't following a real exit strategy. I can tell you now, professional traders don't work that way. If they feel something's oversold, sure, but that's different. Okay. So let's see here. I'm going to answer a couple more questions. I got questions. I got answers. Makes perfect sense and late to the party today. Well, welcome anyhow. Preston Harvey, is trading the 9 EMA a good strategy? No. And I hate the fact that every time I reload this instance of Thinkorswim, I have a few instances of Thinkorswim. Every time I reload this one, I forget to remove the study. So let me do that now. I'm going to get those stay on because I can see it from far away. Off with you. Those are the ones that I have on. So if anybody needs to get set up, you can freeze frame this. There. Now we look better. No, trading the 9 EMA is, it's silly. It's dumb. It's made up. I've seen people with their YouTube videos, how I made $400,000 in 4 minutes. Okay, first of all, no, you didn't. I looked you up. I know who you are. And I have looked up people, but I will never call anybody out. You get a lot of silly things. It's like, it's just a line that follows along. Maybe I should have left it on for demonstration purposes. Yeah, let's put it back on. Exponential. Moving average exponential. There you go. The 9. Okay, here we go. This is the moving average. 9 exponential, right? Look how horrible this would have been for our trade. You're in, then you're out, right? Now you're out. Oh, broke the 9 EMA. You're in. Up, no, you're back out. Up, no, you're back in. Up, you're out, in, out, in, out. Oh, you're back in. You're in. You're riding 9 EMA. Ah, yay. Ah, you guys get it? That's horrible, right? But you can get someone and says like, look at this. I got in here and I made all this money and then I wrote it. And they'll just capture this, right? You can do anything that you like with numbers. This is why a lot of accountants get in trouble. This is why I hear about Enrons and scams at companies and Ponzi schemes and Bernie Madoff. There's a lot of con artist trickery that you can do using numbers and graphs. You need to be able to speak to it. I guarantee you these people cannot explain to you what the 9 exponential moving average is. Ask them for the actual equation. They'll give you a very general overview of what it is. So no, not a good strategy. Look how many ins and outs you'd have here. And it's a trailing indicator. All it's doing is it's following what's happening. That's why it traces under it. So how does that qualify that, right? And I'll tell you the answer that I get. And so you guys will get this too. If you ask too many questions, or if you just ask for specifics, and you don't accept the nonsense like, oh, bro, it's the 9 exponential moving average. It's the secret algorithm of, the Illuminati from the 1400s that left this info for us, or whatever crazy answer they have. They'll just start saying, I make money. You want to see my watch? Yeah, I don't know. You scan that off. I can put up a picture of a watch too. Anybody could. That's not the point. That's not qualifying your position. So I'll always take all the questions you want and I'll qualify it. But yeah, I just gave you a live example of how it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't. And again, I say this. If you could just trade the 9 EMA and that was your way to make money, if that was a good strategy, do you think Wall Street, the multi-trillion-dollar industry, wouldn't have keyed in on this? Something to think about. Like, you beat the system because you're following this study that everyone in the world has access to. Okay, right? Let's see here. Warm milk. Yeah, good question. How long have you been using Unusual Whales? I became aware of Unusual Whales much earlier in the year, and I kind of like looked at their platform in and out. So it's been a good little while. Was I using another source? Yeah, I was using Benzinga, who has a great platform as well. I just feel that Unusual Whales, they have their finger on the pulse. They're more dialed in when it comes to options flow because that is the primary focus of their business, whereas Benzinga is fantastic, but there's a lot on Benzinga, and they're not hyper-focused on this one space. So if it's options flow you're looking for, it's Unusual Whales. And then even in terms of cost, you're still better off because as I understand, unless something's changed with Benzinga, it's an upgrade. So you already have to subscribe to Benzinga Pro, and then you have to upgrade to get some of the features for their options flow. So more expensive, and they're not as tuned in. I guess it would make sense if you're already on Benzinga and taking advantage of all of their other features, and you just want to consolidate in one area and streamline everything. I would get that. I'd understand. I still think Unusual Whales is better, but in the grander scheme of things, I could completely understand someone doing that. Okay. So questions. Can I do conditional? All right. Sorry, I'm just going to scroll up here to make sure that, like I said, the chat isn't perfect. CG, I just learned about waiting for 13/48 crossover on the 5-minute for chart for day trading calls, but is that a good idea or a better way? No, everybody, there's no such thing as like the 5-minute close, the 1-minute close rule. Look, because it wouldn't work here. Again, what con artists do is they find the one instance where it works out and they ignore the 99 where it doesn't. They're like, see, killed it. Did exactly what we wanted to do, right? Like here's how I would do it for the 9 EMA. I would just do this and say, look at that money. Like we got in right when it broke the 9 EMA here, and look at this. We got in at 28, 24, bam, then we're out. Okay, well, zoom out. Yeah, okay. Now we see it doesn't work. No, there's no magic bullet. Just learn price action, understand convictions, see where you believe the stock is going. Options flow data is good to use, but there's no magic bullet, right? It's just if you keep converting, something will make sense. And people talk about the 5-minute close. Same people pushing the ATR garbage do this like 1-minute close because they just read something somewhere that they didn't understand, and they need to sell you some kind of rules. They can't say nothing. So they'll just make something up that sounds good. No, you're letting it confirm. What is it confirming? You think Wall Street's stopping going, hey, retail, we just want to confirm to you that there's a price move coming. So if you'd all like to load up and get in on our profits, now would be a good time to do it. Please make your purchases so you could ride and send the price soaring and make it more expensive for us who are building our position. We love to lose money and help retail. That's why Wall Street's here. There's no such thing. But it's a great talking point for con artists. Okay. Matt Austin, yeah, we talked a little bit about BYND. Can we look at the live flow right now? Yeah, you could. Yeah. Might be interesting as we're coming to a close. Right. Consider the environment, consider the date and the time. Dan Sage, you're very welcome. Happy to answer. Very impressive, RS. Great catch on regarding BYND. How did you spot that? Very aggressive. I have a big list that I go through every evening. That's why yesterday I was kind of annoyed that I had to stop and address what I did. But here's BYND. Yesterday the list was late because I felt it was more important to protect everybody. It's so much easier to lose. I know that people hang on and they'll get a bunch of 20 to 40% wins, and then they'll just write me and say I lost 60% of my account. They'll tell me that this is their trade history. I know how easy it is to lose. So once I heard that there was this con going around and people were getting crushed on it, I stopped building my own private equity list and decisions, which we usually don't need to have until like 6 a.m. the next morning. I stopped everything because I wanted to protect people from that. Like if that's all I do, if that's all you ever hear from me is just how to protect you against scams and not lose money or lose less, that's cool. There's no reason to lose your shirt, and I've been there, right? I didn't have a lot of money growing up, and it sucked. It was really, really difficult. So I don't want anybody struggling. I particularly don't want you like working hard at a job and then putting money away and losing the stock market. That's gutting. Whether you have a family or don't have a family or it's just you, it's brutal. I had to stop and shut that down. It's the same people espousing the whole, it's a 1-minute close. Yeah, shut up. No, it's not. There's no such thing as a confirmation. There's consolidation periods. I believe that after a big move, I like consolidation, but not because someone's confirming something to me. It's because I'm letting the IV calm down so that I can get a proper entry, and because there's a lot of momentum, and I feel like I would rather enter when the IV is slowing down, spreads are tighter, like I can qualify my position. I want tighter spreads, I want a calm down IV, I want an easier entry point. Okay. WMU Keegan R. Okay. Quick question for your watch list. I never see expiration date on Twitter. Are you always looking at a week out, 2 weeks? I'm new to this, so I appreciate anything you can provide. No problem. Yeah. So I've said it several times, but you know what? It's not in a sticky thread, so how are you supposed to know? I'm going to have to put up a sticky thread, Keegan R. I'm just going to shorten it, but I'll call you Keegan R. Yeah, it's weekly always unless otherwise specified. I will put it in brackets. So I've done that. Those have been following a little bit longer have seen me put it in brackets. So always assume weekly unless otherwise explicitly stated. Thoughts on their algo flow for trade ticks? Nope, haven't looked into it. Tradie ticks? Nope. I knew of some people who are launching about 2 years ago, I was asked if I wanted to be involved in a trade algorithm website. I'm not sure what I can disclose. I did sign a contract not to say much about it. I decided I wasn't interested because I didn't like how the data was going to be used. So there are sites where you could build your own algorithm pretty easily, and I will not name names. But by using their platform, what they're doing is just aggregate. Choose my words carefully. I'm sure my lawyer is going to love me after this. I swear I'm going to get a call, and I know that he jumps in these chats. There are some platforms out there. I will not speak to any specifics, but that will allow you to input your own algorithms for free to sort of build your own trade patterns. The price of that you don't see, and remember, when it's free, you're the product. I like that line. I have my friend Chris is big on that one as well. They will take whatever they identify as winners because they're crunching your data and they're going to take it from you. And that's what you're signing on to. So it's basically just a testing pool for thousands of people to join thinking they have this great free service. They're analyzing the performance of your trades and your algorithms. And if you have a good one, it's theirs now. So I was not comfortable with that. Not because I was afraid that we'd get in trouble, because you're allowed to do that. That's just the world we live in. It's the exchange for the service, and it's in the terms of service. I don't know. I don't want to steal other people's ideas. I want to build my own ideas, and if your ideas are better than me, if you guys become far better at identifying things than me, then come back to me and help me out, help me improve one day. That's how I look at it. If someone could be better than me, and I'm the worst of the group, then good. Then that's just me needing to improve. So that's what I think about a lot of those. I don't know if TradeEtics does the same thing. But yeah, that's my thought on some of the algorithm platforms. So let me see. Bordeaux Presents. Yeah, I went over setting prices earlier. Absolutely. I lost a lot because I didn't know what I was doing. JL, it's understandable. It's okay. You can build starting today, JL. I understand. You lost a lot a year ago. We build starting today. Don't worry about what happened before. Today's important. Tomorrow's very important. Do I use hot chains? I like a hot chains, yeah. A lot of the time with hot chains, there's just a lot of high volume. That's where the Furus like to hang out because there's liquidity there. But the problem with having strong volume both ways is the data's mixed, right? How do you get an indication as to which way it's going? It's good for them because they run the scam of it might go up or might go down. The greatest stock prediction in the history of stocks, it might go up or down. But there is value there sometimes. I know that Ford was a big winner there the other day. But when I see just a lot of volume and it's mixed, that just means the market's not decisive. So that's why when I see a lot of these fake con artist gurus post something where there was just a lot of activity, they're like, lots of action, hammer, could go either way. I'm like, so what are you predicting, Furu? You're the guru. Not it could happen. Everybody knows it could go either way. It just means that there's indecision. If you actually know how to read this stuff, think about it. That's like saying we have tens of thousands of people voting. Okay, and what's the vote say? Is it unanimous? No, it's almost 50-50. I'd say, okay, well, I don't know which way to bet because it seems like everybody else is torn. Show me a vote where it's 90-10, and then I'm a little bit more confident. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. Is that you are using... Yeah, no, I was just... 9EMA is here just for demonstration purposes. I can take it off now. And I did have it on before I explained. This is just my default Thinkorswim setup on this particular instance. I have a different account, but I do not use the 9EMA. I do not use VWAP. This is what I use. RVol, implied volatility. I overlap just because it's easier to see. Like you You can also bring your volume, like these blue bars you see, you could bring it down here on Thinkorswim or view it somewhere else. I have it here because it's easier for me to see. I don't like it taking up another slot down here. Zohan, no, I don't give more weight to floor traders in UW option flow. I'll analyze their trades and I'll make a decision. Jay Bagnula, any tips for anticipating capitalizing on expiration day, afternoon or end of day pinning? If you're ready to make a move that's a little higher risk, it would be a later in the day play or even earlier in the morning on Friday. You get enough exposure to risk earlier in the day. We're in full force on a Friday. So you can watch the flow. Jay Bagnulo, if you see somebody making a big move on a Friday afternoon with a 0 DTE, so 0 days to expiry, that's about as high conviction as it gets. If it's out of the money, even greater conviction, right? And then you just look at the premium, look at price action, make your decision. So that's one way, yeah. But I find I get enough exposure to risk trading on a Friday at all. Mike G, does Theta Decay happen over the weekend? Yes. Will my contract lose 1.2 by Monday? No. It'll lose it roughly what the Theta is stated as. Roughly. But remember, Theta's not exact. It's pretty close, though. I got a question. This is so funny. Your lawyer's keeping an eye on you in the chats. Yeah, my lawyer, we have an interesting relationship. He feels that I'm too willing to say what I feel. Not that he's unethical. Just I've heard that quite a bit. As a CEO of a company, I had a very different attitude. But I think that's also why I got the award that I did. And like I've said before, that award, you can look me up. You know, my name's Peter Tarr. You've seen the article where I was one of the most highly rated CEOs in the country, as voted by my peers. Voted by my peers was the thing that was big to me, because that was my competitors. People who were supposed to not like me. Voting, saying amongst the most respected. Second most respected in the United States was my ranking, I believe. And the article out there that I posted was for Nevada. I was number 1 in the state. And it's because I'll say the things that other people don't want to say. But I think you guys have already kind of gotten that idea with the way that I go after the Furus, you know. And they've tried to get me to join rank by using different accounts to give me invitations and offer cash. It's like, I can make money. I don't need you guys to make me money. Get out of here. I'm not like you. It's insulting. So yeah, my lawyer will keep an eye on me in chat sometimes. I haven't seen him comment, but I'm sure he's got nothing to do this afternoon. Follow me around. I have some really good friends that also pop into chat and keep an eye on me to keep me humble. I have great people around me, keep me very humble. Key trigger points, Dr. Gunakar. I detailed it earlier. Just joining, watch the full video. They're selecting and watch the research. How to determine target entry price. Humphrey, yep. Also went over that earlier. Pretty Lily, I also unfollowed a lot of so-called Twitter fools. Good. JL, thanks, man. That's the goal. Not sure what you're referring to, but I got you. I'm with you. Francisco, what do you recommend for a new trader to look at or educate themselves on that want to become a full-time trader? Depends how new. I mean, always familiar. People hate hearing this because it sounds like I'm signing homework. Ditch all the furus and just go to Investopedia and learn all your terms. If you hear terms being thrown around that you don't understand, go look them up and look up examples so you understand them at a deep level, not just a basic level, not calls equal goes up. Look at examples. Understand how it works. Understand the Greeks. Understand how delta really works. I mean, I was just breaking it down. Wellness NYC. Yes, correct. That's how you spell my last name. I was just breaking it down for one of my really close friends, and we were going over delta, and he had some different ideas on how it worked. And once we went through, he was like, oh, okay. He's like, I had a general idea, and what I said is I want you to have a deep understanding of it. So that's what I would suggest. Questions about what I'll do. Guys, I am trying to figure out ways to engage deeper. I know I've been saying this for over a month. It's tricky because I don't want to do anything like Discord. And it's also tougher. It's like, what's a deeper engagement? We have total beginners, and I know that I could help a total beginner, but what they might want is different from an advanced trader, and is different from an intermediate trader. So that's why it's a little bit tricky, but I'll get to it. So Francisco, yeah, it really depends where you are if you want to move to becoming a full-time trader. But progress, make progressions. That's the easy blanket answer. Understand all your definitions, make progressions, right? Scale up over time. Don't say, well, I want to, and this is the worst thing I hear. Well, I need at least $6,000 a month in order to support myself and replace my income. Right now, I've been trading with small positions. Therefore, I'm going to start trading and buying in multi-$1,000 positions because I need to make at least $6,000 a month. That is extremely dangerous. You're telling yourself how much you need to make before you're at the skill level to make the money and earn consistently. All that does is it increases your exposure, right? And with that kind of pressure, if you do get into a loss position, it's far more likely you're not going to let it go. You're not going to accept the loss because you're going to be saying, no, I'm up 1,800. I need to hit 6,000. I can't lose 900 or 200. So you'll hold on. It's got to reverse. Then you're going to be in a loss position. You're going to be upside down. So I'd rather protect you first than have you grow. That's my idea. Yeah, I'll look at doing something more comprehensive on unusual whales. Like I said, I'm looking at a lot of things too. I might do a beginner's like crash course 101 on options, and then also do something for people who are a little bit more intermediate in unusual whales. A lot of different ideas. If Bell 70 celeb. Okay. Arval, what you looking at? Tadika. Well, I mean, you can see earlier in the day, as expected, relative volume is going to be much higher because of higher trading activity. It gives me an indication of what's happening. So we see a big move down. What this indicates to me is this spike in volume and this move down usually means that somebody was breaking off some of their, or divesting a position, a larger position. I mean, any sale is divesting a position or building a position, as is a purchase. But when we see a move down, it tells me that it's a little bit more aggressive on the selling side, right? Because remember, on every candle, there's an equal number of buyers and sellers. So people say there's more sellers today than there were buyers. No, because for any share to trade hands, there were purchases. So as this went down, every bit of volume here, every share that traded hands, there was a buyer for it. The buyer was just buying it on as it moved down, right? So it lets me know sort of what someone's doing, and if it's really unusual, it will draw my attention. This will draw my attention, right? This looks like I might have gotten in on a bounce here if I had a little bit more data. Like this is just too little data to tell you, hey, watch for this and then pick it up. But what I see here is we're ramping up. Somebody is really divesting. We're getting out of a position, right? They're using this midday opportunity. Like look at these shares traded here, 134,000. But look at what we were at, 18, 12, 4, 9. And again, the shares are up here, right? So relative volume is alerting me to that. Again, it's another indicator, just like these numbers are. It draws my attention because if I'm standing far away from the screen, right? Look up here. This is volume. I can't see that far away from the screen. It's a lot of strain on my eyes. I'd love it if TD would let me drag this and make it bigger, because this would be like, it would be this big. And then I wouldn't need as many indicators, but I can only do so much. We only have so many options. So that just tells me something is going on. And then you see a lot of bargain hunters picking up here. I might have picked up here on a scalp. This would have piqued my interest, and I would have paired that with some other data. So this is a good example of RVOL. When I talk about price action, there's no magic. There's no fake furu nonsense. They will never talk about this. They never do. I might have liked this. Now, what they might tell you is like, volume's picking up on the way down. It's time to sell. That doesn't mean that's what it is, right? It could be that we're exhausting, right? And on a move like this, I'm considering the context of the rest of the day, the overall price. I already have some positions charted. I already have my targets. This is a new low of the day. I don't see any news. There's a lot of things, right? Because if I see this happening, this relative volume starting to pick up, and then I see news, and I have a different news indicator, but I see my live news saying something horrible just happened, that could mean that it's time to sell. All else equal, nothing going wrong, that could mean that it's time to buy a bargain. So as you see, it's nuanced. Okay. Congratulations. I want to read the article. Yeah, let me see. Let me see if I can pull it up. CEO. I posted it on Twitter, but let me see if I could even just get it, punch into chat. It's been a couple years since the press release came out, but oh man, like for everybody else, they got these great photos. For me, it was pixelated. I don't think they liked me very much because I beat out some pretty big CEOs. I think I beat out the CEO of MGM Resorts, and no, that's not why I shorted MGM yesterday or was buying puts. United Airlines, and I think I came second only to the guy at Costco, and I've talked about this before. I maintain he only beat me and became the number one guy because Costco gives out free samples. So there's the article. I just punched it into chat if anybody wants to look at it. So yeah, I take that as I had a lot of awards and a lot of good things in my career. Obviously, I mean, I became CEO of that company when I was about 30 years old. Called the Canadian accent correctly. Get out of here. Speak a lot of languages. I was born in Canada, but I've been in the States for a long time. Matt Miller, yeah, I'm from Ottawa. You'll see that. I was born in Ottawa, but I moved to the U.S. so long ago that. But yeah. Okay, so Lily, that's the article, and that meant a lot to me because again, it was voted on by my peers. What's important to you when navigating unusual whale stands you have to consider on your list? So I actually build my list before I go to unusual whales. Unusual whales, I just start punching in one by one. I will just punch in different ticker symbols and go through them. So I have that figured out ahead of time. I have a pretty big list. People ask me, how do you build your watch list? Well, now you have a little bit more insight after this live. I think we got into some really good details because I try to remember what questions I'm getting more frequently, and I'm not trying to hide secret sauce. I mean, it's obviously, if we were sitting down and I'm coaching someone one-on-one, it could be a lot more nuanced and there's so much to explain, but I try to answer as many questions as specifically as possible while keeping up with the volume of questions, and watch list is a big one. So how I build it, you have more insight. I'm watching news. If I hear anything major on any major company, I'm interested. It's going to go on my watch list. Doesn't mean that I'll see something, right? So I review about maybe 100 companies each evening, sometimes less, sometimes a little bit more, usually not more, but it could be up to 100. And on the weekend, I go really deep. Because I throw so many more in there. Most of them, it doesn't work out, right? Because not everything lines up. I want multiple data points confirming something to me. But again, it's weighted. If I don't need to see an options flow if I hear something absolutely catastrophic. Let's say we're trading Mara and Mara was around here and I read something catastrophic popped up. I don't need to go check options chains. I don't need to do anything. I am shorting. I am buying puts. So again, that's why it's nuanced and it's weighted. But if it's news article, well, I need to consider it. And I say, well, this is impactful, but it's not extreme. It's not like their facilities burned down or their CEOs quitting on fraud charges or something really extreme. I considered it in the greater landscape of things. So Abdullahi Abdi, thanks a lot, bro. Thank you. And keep rocking. You're crushing it. We'll be dropping the video on earnings soon. I got questions. I believe you're referring to the video on swing trading earnings. Yeah, it's coming. How do you go about choosing different stocks, DMN? Hello, Profits. I see you, Profits Taken. I see you sometimes tell us to watch 6 to 8 stocks in the watch list, but you switched. How do you go to about choosing different stocks? Narrow it down, right? Narrow it down. If you see 6, don't try and follow all 6. Pick 3. If you don't know any better, pick 2 or 3 or whatever number that you can follow closely and enter on. And I'd rather you have a good grasp and good feel for 2 or 3 and maybe miss some. And don't worry if you miss, because that's the first question we're going to get. Yeah, I want to follow 2 or 3, but what if I pick the wrong ones? Don't worry. I'm posting what I have high conviction in. Look what our trades did today. I didn't get in on BYND and Roblox. Look what the opportunities were there. Roblox ran up and then tanked is what I was hoping they would. They just didn't run up high enough. BYND is looking for a charge right out of the gates, and it exploded out of the gates, right? So don't worry about missing. Better that you focus in on one. Now, if you do understand a little bit more and you understand the spaces a bit better, I'd say if you see 2 in the same space, if you understand that, again, Furus have no idea. They'd be like, what are you talking about space? Coin and Mara, both crypto, right? So you know that you won't follow both. Pick one. Why? Because if you look at it from a portfolio perspective, right? You take that kind of mindset of a fund manager, a high-level fund manager. We speak in terms of exposure. You have exposure to both. You have exposure to crypto by having your hand in one. So that's one good way to do it. But again, if you don't know anything else, randomly pick 2. Pick 2 that you like. and then review and go from there. And a few more questions. Okay. I like your name. Thank you. MACD, RSI are pretty, Lily? No. Relative strength indicator, just, it might get me to, I use it as a cue to maybe look back at some data and to see why we arrived where we are. But it's not a trading cue. MACD, no. I know people can be like, look, I traded well with it, but explain to me, why'd you trade well with it? What was it about it? What specifically? And then they'll just tell you the definition they read of MACD online. No, it tells you the swings. It's a trailing indicator. So no. Matt Miller, thank you. I used to work for a big company with many coworkers. Oh, cool. Yeah. It's Crush Burns. I know some who day trade. Yeah, I don't know the Ottawa scene as well as I once did, but I know people there. Yeah. Love the way you simplify everything. Thank you. This door is open. A big thing I take pride in is simplifying complex topics. Actually, I think that, excuse me, the hallmark of a con artist or an arrogant person in any industry, it could be science, it could be medicine, it could be finance, is somebody who indulges themselves in being overly verbose and complex. In other words, they want to speak with big, fancy, elaborate words to impress themselves and feel and reassure themselves that they're intelligent and cool. But what they should be doing is considering their audience. I try to go the opposite way, as I try to say, listen, this isn't my opportunity to flex my vocabulary or pat myself on the back. I am trying to be effective. So what is effective speaking? Effective speaking, you're speaking for your audience. I'm not speaking for me. If I'm not helping people better understand something because I'm simplifying it or putting it in effective terms, then I suck. It doesn't matter how verbose I am and how eloquently spoken I am. It matters how effective I am at helping people see things from a different perspective. And I think that's important, right? A lot of people think they don't understand things. I've tutored in math when I was younger and science and helped people understand. Some of the smartest, best people I know just needed something explained to them in a different way. They were just wired differently. But once they got it, I was like, oh my God, you're going to be better than me in a day. And I think that's it for trading too. It's complex, it's elaborate, it's intricate. We have a lot of strange terms, relative strength, calls, puts, all sort of thing, price action. It's easy to get confused. And where furus they hide in here. They love that obscurity, right? They know that you don't understand. I'm the opposite. I want you to understand it in a different way that's deeper so you could be effective, and you might get better than I am. Maybe you just need a little bit of help getting started. Right. Okay. Any last questions? Is there anything that we haven't covered? I mean, Lucid kind of did what Mara did, right? Again, same story for me. I told you I was going to be conservative this morning, so that was me anticipating that this might happen. I was willing to accept that. Lucid's not what I'm beating myself up or reviewing too much. I knew what I did early in the AM. I thought there was going to be a little bit of a sell-off. The market just went straight and it took off. So anybody who took this directionally, you crushed it. You know where you're getting out, right? Even if you held here, which I wouldn't have been crazy about, got up here, good for you. Anybody didn't get out here, I don't know what the heck you're doing. I don't care that it ended up here. This could have been another buyback opportunity if you're scalping on the day, but you're taking some profits here. If you weren't, you were doing things that are very, 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 very silly. Okay, and we're into our last questions here. Rock Whittington, can you please share your basic position sizing and risk strategy per trade for day trading? I've gone over my risk strategy and risk mitigation. Mine is a little bit different from everyone because I'm willing to take bigger risks. Earlier in the video, Rock, I mentioned that I believe growing accounts, smaller accounts, should choose times when they do dip into higher exposure moments. So you'll hear people say, no, just take your 5% wins, your 10, 20% wins. I think there are times when it's calculated risk and you can do that infrequently. Today would have been a good opportunity because it was such a low barrier of entry to get into Mara. My sizing is very different and would be different from yours. So I don't think it's effective to say, well, my account size is this big, so I buy X number of contracts. But I do talk about a maximizing profit video, how to manage your size and mitigate risk. So hopefully that is more effective. And what I'm looking for is giving you solutions that you can apply to your own account, as opposed to saying, I have this much money. And again, I also always add, like, even if I was to talk about that, people use that to brag. How do you know where I got my money from? I mean, you just saw articles or CEO by the time I was in my 30s. Before that, I was Fortune 50 with Procter & Gamble. I was a professional trader. Who cares about that sort of stuff? Let's figure out what works for your account. Don't emulate anybody else. Don't emulate Furus. Don't even emulate the other people that you see on the feed who are saying they got X return and Y return. You stick to your plan. So I try to explain what you can do for your own accounts. How do you determine the strike sent out on Twitter? Vertigo. Good question. I touched on that earlier in the video. You might want to go back there. You can look at my DTE as well. That's also a big one. NT, do you do Discord or live trades outside of YouTube? No Discord. No on Discord. I just don't think it's an effective medium. I don't see how it would drive value to anybody other than, it would just be profiteering for me. I'm all for charging for good services. I don't see the Discord thing as being of value, and I think it would overlap too much with what I do for free on Twitter. So if I'm doing something I do, I work with private clients. I do consulting and advisory on for different firms. I do some of that work, but not in Discord capacity. It's just more private. So if I was doing anything, it would be just continuing with private consultations. I don't want anything getting in the way of what I do here on YouTube and Twitter, which is just for free for the masses. And then, Discord, just I don't see how it helps. So that's why I'm not on there. It helps con artists set up a recurring bill every month, and they'll milk you for life, and then make you feel like if you're not successful, it's your fault. Not that they suck. Let's see here. Yeah, Abdi killed it. So shine on him today. He killed it. That's crazy. I'm very happy for him. I loved it. I was like, yeah, and then I was like, oh wait, no, I didn't make that money, but I don't care. I'm just as happy to hear when you guys are doing great, because I'm hearing that retail's doing well, and you guys get to take care of your families and do cool things, and it's nice to see progressions, and it's just exciting when you see people progressing, because it reminds me that I had a time where I progressed, and it tells me like, man, I could still take it up a level. I can get better at this. I think we all can. Snoop Jaggy Jag Snoopy. I told you guys I have a beagle, so I read everything as Snoopy when I see the name, because Snoopy was a beagle. I have a beagle. Love beagles. She is not named Snoopy though, so I get that question a lot. Do I have a referral code for IBKR Canada? Yeah, I'll put it out. I haven't even checked the dashboard. I don't think they're giving me my referrals. I think I've sent 20 people over to them, but I don't care. I do it because I believe in I believe it's a good platform, but they still haven't given me any referrals. It's all right. Not a big deal. Really like how you post your analysis. Thanks, Pretty Lily. Yeah, that's the idea. I like to put the analysis out there. Oh, Joe Santiago, thank you very much. Maria, thank you very much. I appreciate your kind words. Just joking, working on my mindset. Happy weekend. Last thing. So we can if you guys want, we can have a mindset video. And I hate them typically from all the furus. I can just give you my take. I always say, I'm not here to tell anybody how to live. Like it drives me nuts. Here's the irony. I have a rich history in my career and my personal and professional accomplishments, and I don't think I'm anybody to tell people how to live and what to do. And some kid who's hiding his face, who's probably serving you coffee 2 weeks ago, and I love people who serve coffee. I'm a coffee fanatic. Is trying to tell you how to think and how to live inside your mind. It's all con artist stuff, but I also have a formal education in neuroscience and in psychology, and I'm always applying it to what I do here. And I think there's some important elements when it comes to trading. So let me know if you guys are interested in that. RC Ramos, I used to have a beagle. Oh man, that catches my eye. I love beagles. Mine's a sweetheart. Her name is Hinata. She's on Instagram. Maybe I'll share that. We haven't updated in a while. Actually, she had a video go viral. She had like 60 million views or 70 million views. Thanks for sharing your insight. Have a great weekend. And yes, please, from Maria. Okay, I will do something on mindset very soon. Thanks from ATX. If Bell 70, I lived in ATX. I moved from ATX to Houston. I got 3 minutes before my wife kicks down the door and says we're going to get food. We can just switch just for fun. I usually don't again, personal stuff, but let's do an Ask Me Anything for the next 3 to 5 minutes. So yeah, ask me anything. Could be stock related or not. And I'll look in the comment section here. I know there's a delay too, so I'll try to reply in order. Let's see. Can you give an overview of IBKR? Yep. Yeah, and when I say ask me anything, it can be stock related or not. So go for it. Yeah, I remember FBell. Yep. I was just letting everybody know context. I was there too. Francisco, you should start a trade school. Yeah, maybe, I guess. Boomer stocks, options such as mining, maybe. I'm not convicted to that, but I do have exposure to the crypto space and to mining companies as well. I'm waiting for Nvidia and AMD to finish segmenting their offerings so that we can see a delineation between the gaming crowd and the mining cards. I think they're going to optimize for miners. I think that'll be a boom. That'll be good for the market. It'll be good for those companies. Here we go. Ask me anything question. So, are you a baseball fan? I don't dislike baseball, but I'm not a big baseball fan. I know who is in the World Series and I know who wins the World Series. And obviously I live in Houston, so I was cheering for Houston this year. Dan Sage, 39. I know it should be a lot older, but I had some good opportunities when I was really young. So, based on my career, people think that I'm a lot older. Then they hear my voice and see my face and they're like, wait, what? Yeah. So favorite color used to be blue, then it became red, but I like red when it's combined with black. But I also like silver and black. I like things that contrast hard. I'm not sure. I don't quite have a favorite color. CSI security is worth it. Yeah, if in the right setting. If you have an opportunity. For Splatula, CSI Securities, that's Canadian. So in the US, we do Series 7, but I kind of covered under both. Yeah, if you have a job opportunity. Why don't you like the strat? Pretty Lily. Doesn't work. It does because here's a perfect example. If you say, well, if it breaks the 2, they're taking it up. Okay, well, it did. Well, but now it came back down. So it's almost like calls and puts. You're covered either way, right? So it's like you can never be wrong because with the strat, you say if it breaks the 1, now it's going down. Okay, well, here's going down, but it came right back up. And so then you're covered with a 3. So there's an answer for every scenario, so it's never wrong. It's also not conducive to options. And I think the creator of the strat, Rob Smith, said himself, it's not intended for options, right? Because IV can really be very different. Like a 2, what he calls a 2 can really change the IV, and he's not accounting for that. So it just doesn't work. I think maybe once upon a time it did, but everybody's aware of it. There's never an easy system. And I know people are zealots for it. Like people are zealots about everything these days. Ask anybody about anything, someone's a zealot about it. You could name anything. Like you can say, I don't like turkey. And because the online world that we're in, someone's going to be like, turkey's the best bird in the world. I had 3 pet turkeys when I was a kid. How dare you offend my turkey named Ronald? And he's upset right now in the living room. And you ruined Thanksgiving. And I could just be saying I don't like turkey. So people get wild about everything these days. Sorry for my fun little rants. Get like 5. All right, I got a couple more minutes. My wife's giving me the okay. Best way to handle it for bad days when first starting out. Mikhail Young, mitigate your risk. Don't let a bad day turn into a devastating day. I know it hurts. I know you want to win every day. I know sometimes your feeling and your mood and your psychology for the day is dictated by how you perform in trading. And so it feels more important. You're like, I can't walk away with a loss because then you're going to feel really bad for the rest of the day. And I'm going to take a loss and it's going to ruin cut your loss if it's at your limit. And then just forget about it. And know that you're going to build and do better overall. It's like your life. You've had bad days in your life, right? Reflect. How do you get out of it? You build. You get a shovel. You dig out. So you're going to build out. You just have to have that confidence in yourself. But if you feel like that one trade is everything, oh, you're going to hang on because you're like, this is all or nothing. I'm going to let it expire. I'm going to lose all the money in the world. I'll do whatever I have to stay in here. That's when you lose 60, 70%. How many hours a week do you work? I don't know, Zohan. I work a lot, but I try not to think of it as work, because if I do, it's not healthy. Then I'm working way too much. But, I'm usually asleep I try to sleep at midnight. I try to get to bed earlier, and then I hate it. I get up early. I mean, earlier than I should. I'm usually up at like 4, and I'm like, no, it's not, because I'm so wired for the workday that I just get up at 4, and then I'm kind of laying there, and I'm like, all right, 6, get out of bed. So yeah, a lot of hours, and I work weekends, right? I'll record videos or do something. Speaking of least favorite food, what food can you not live without? I'm going to sound like I'm really boring, but I eat a lot of eggs. I eat a lot of eggs. They're good neurologically. They're good. I don't know. But I love sushi too. If I was not being as boring, we're going to go for sushi today. So if you're in Houston, you're going to sushi for dinner, you might see me. But I'm not going to be wearing a fancy Rolex and be all decked out. I'm probably going to be wearing a hoodie, a baseball cap, and jeans. A lot of thanks, like time and patience. Okay, food autocorrect. CG, like Hinata, wife of Naruto? Yes, that is my dog's name. She's named after Hinata, and it means towards the sun, I believe. So she's our little sunshine. Yes, yeah. Hinata named after Naruto. Actually, a good friend of mine named his dog Shiba. Oh, no, wait. Natakamaru. I think it was Shiba. Okay. Yeah, I think so. Actually, no, we have a neighbor whose dog's named Shiba. But yeah, we've got a few different Naruto characters. Where'd you receive formal derivatives on? So I completed an options and derivatives formal licensing. So you have to take trading. So if you're in order to trade derivatives, you have to take a options and derivatives licensing exam, and there are multiple levels to that. So you could take advanced, and to work with. I mean, it's funny because a lot of traders get into it and they don't want to take their derivatives specialization course because they're intimidated and they're worried if they fail, it might look bad. Like, you don't need it, but you need it to advance. So I took it to advance, and then I'm good at math, so I looked at it as, okay, I can outpace everybody because I don't need long. I could study for a couple weeks and do well in this. So what I don't have an experience, I think I can outpace people on sort of the formal exams and create opportunities for myself in my career. So that's why I got aggressive with that. And then I took it to the highest it could in terms of options and derivatives, licensing and specialization, or certification, if you will. So the highest I had available, I'm ready to do that. Or I was ready to do it, and I did. What's your main source of income? Investments, trading, but not just like day trading, right? Because I have my private equity, so that works. I write options a lot as well. I'm not writing any of the options that I'm selling here, but I write deep out of the money options, oftentimes, right? But I will calculate, and that'll be a reason I decide to keep a stock in my portfolio sometimes, is based on the value that I can return from options. Right, so if it's highly volatile and I'm finding that we're having a good run, even if the underlying isn't performing, if we're generating revenue from writing options, that'll be a reason for us to keep it in the portfolio. So, yeah, all that combined is my main source of income. I divested a portion of the company that I was CEO of, so that was great. Plus, I had some career roles that were very good to me. Yeah. How would you recommend, so last 4 questions. How would you recommend confidence in trading smaller size to get conviction? Absolutely, if Bell. Yeah, absolutely. Start smaller, get comfortable, right? Because you can't be confident in something that you're not comfortable with, right? The two are synonymous with one another. These words are synonyms. Comfort, confidence, right? How do you get more comfortable? You take the pressure off, right? If you're trading, if $1,000 is a lot to you, I think $1,000 is, it's a lot of money. If it's a lot to you and you feel the pressure of it when you're making that trade, take the pressure off, right? You want enough pressure to make it such that you respect what you're doing in anything, right? Just, you could apply this anywhere. You always want to respect the importance of what you're doing, but you don't want so much pressure that it impacts your performance negatively, right? So if you're doing something, the little bit of pressure letting you know that it's important is good. That keeps you on your A game. But if you get to the point where the pressure is like breaking you down mentally and making you panic and stay up at night and making you sweat and make some bad decisions, or if things go poorly, you're devastated, don't fixate on, well, but if it's good, I'm going to have a big high. Yeah, you shouldn't be getting your only highs from trading. Take that pressure off, build confidence. I'd rather feel steady confidence, right? And just neurologically and psychologically in my life, I'd rather just feel steady and level with confidence than experience major highs and lows. So same thing with trading, size down. And I said I'd just finish up these last questions. What is the best time to enter a 1 to 2 day swing? Unusual whales you'd suggest? Tony, it depends on where it hits your trigger point. So you're not picking the time of day. You have your plan, and then you take what the market gives you. I always say that. You don't pick. You're going to wait for what the market gives you. If it doesn't give you something, then okay. Then you didn't take a trade, but that's okay. You're a good man. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gunakar. Appreciate it. RC Ramos. Pretty Lily. Yep, you can write options. As long as you hold a sufficient quantity of underlying or commons, you can write options. And the respect to the pressure, yes. Yeah, you have to. Your respect for a situation will result in a certain amount of pressure, but it can be positive, right? So those are synonymous words. Just like comfort, confidence, pressure, and respect are synonymous to me, right? If I respect the situation and I know that it's a high stakes situation, then I will feel some pressure, and that's okay, right? You should feel some pressure. If you're careless about it, then it's not necessarily good. Thanks, Snoop Jaggy Jag. Appreciate it. Okay. I think that's a good one. I will earmark that in the future we will have a video on mindset. Maybe what I could do is make that a live, or I'll do a record and then maybe we'll do a live as well, so that, if you're interested, you can get my insight on it. We've also got some walkthroughs on unusual whales, some things to consider on how we can engage more deeply. I'm getting a lot of questions, guys. Just FYI for anybody sending DMs, thank you very much. I will get back to you as soon as possible. If the question is, how can we engage more deeply? Can we do Discord? Can we do something else? I said no to Discord because it will take away from what I'm doing on Twitter. Anything that I do, anything that I come up with, I don't want it taking away from this good thing that we have going, because it benefits a lot of people. So that's really important to me. What's your longest held stock? Dan Sage, I am currently long with, I've had P&G in my portfolio forever, but I also worked for P&G. So, I was buying it on a reinvestment program, and I've held Tesla for a little while, but probably P&G. It's just good dividends. It's not going anywhere. Before we sign off here, take a look in your house. Take a look on all the products in your house. They're all P&G, right? Almost, you could buy around P&G. P&G owns so many brands. P&G owned Pringles. Did you know that? P&G owned Pringles. Pringles, back in the day, Noxzema, Dolce & Gabbana's commercial line, CoverGirl. Most people would be like, what are you talking about? Dolce & Gabbana? Yep, their commercial line, colognes, even deals with Lacoste. Every cleaning supply you can think of, P&G was everywhere. They had diapers, IAMs with pet food. They're not going anywhere. So it's just been great for the dividends, good returns, right options on it. Yeah, P&G is a good one that's been in my account forever. But again, it was easy to get into because I worked for them, right? And I had a fairly high position. I wasn't the CEO of P&G, but I was in there. Good position, enough to get my hands on some stocks. So, okay, guys, thank you very much. I hope you guys had a really great week. I hope everybody was profitable. If not profitable in your P&L, then at least profitable in growth and learning a few things. And I hope this was beneficial. Thank you all very much for the kind words. And go enjoy your weekend. Don't think about trading. On Sunday, I'll have the list out and I'll try to work on some videos over the weekend. Thank you all very, very much. I'm humbled. Take care, everyone.